Hi, I'm Mark Bunker, and I want to show you a little bit of video from the last Downtown Development Board meeting. It's kind of interesting because like 1 hour before the meeting, I checked my mail and I saw that there was an email saying we're going to discuss a resolution to drop the number of ex officio members of the Downtown Development Board down from 2 to 1. This, by the way, wise beard kitten right here. Hello. This is my cat, Allie. So I went to the meeting and I was expecting to soberly discuss the situation. And what shocked me is the attorney for the Downtown Development Board decided to introduce the resolution and make it clear that this was to get rid of me, but also kind of covering up the reason why they wanted to get rid of me. Now, the Downtown Development Board has 7 members on it who are voting members, and then there are 2 ex officio members. So we, Mayor Hibbard and myself, we don't vote on this board, but we're there to offer counsel. And of the 7 voting members on the board, 6 of them, well, 5 are Scientologists. 1 works for Scientology's go-to attorney, Johnson Pope. This is the outside legal firm that Scientology uses to attack anyone in court that that they feel like it. And then there's 1 non-Scientologist on the council. So the reason that really they're trying to get me removed is because I am a critic of the Church of Scientology. But the attorney for the board goes out of her way to concoct this fanciful story to cover up the real reason. Over the decades, people have said to me, Mark, I don't know how you keep your cool when Scientologists approach you on the street and say the most horrible things to you. And I always have a smile on my face when that happens because I know that it's not the Scientologists who are talking to me and saying these things. It's L. Ron Hubbard. L. Ron Hubbard told these people that anyone who criticizes Scientology is a criminal. And therefore, you can do anything to attack them because they're as bad as Hitler. To say something negative about Scientology? My God. So I'm hearing Hubbard when I hear them talk, and I never blame them personally. But what angers me is when somebody who's not a Scientologist is used as a tool or allows themselves to be used to accomplish Scientology's goals, which is don't allow this guy to be sitting in the room with all of us Scientologists, because he might mention the word Scientology, and even when they pass a resolution that says you can't say Scientology. One time I quoted noted humanitarian and author L. Ron Hubbard without mentioning Scientology, and that seemed to upset some people too, although I thought it was a very valid point. At any rate, that's not what I'm there at the meetings for, and those are just a couple offhand comments in the past year that I've been on the board. But it's desperate. They were desperate to get rid of me. I'm going to show you this video now. And bear in mind that the resolution that is being proposed here and being voted on, it doesn't accomplish anything, really. What the resolution is asking is for the city council, of which I am an elected member. The city council has to decide whether we want to go along with this and reduce the ex officio members from 2 to 1. And as Elise points out, the person who really should go is Mr. Bunker, because we don't want to waste his time So when she said things like that to me, I got a little upset, and I have to admit that maybe I was a little more heated in my comments than I should have been, and that I normally am. But I am a passionate person, and I think that passion and the heart and it is what I try to bring to the council. So I'm going to show you this. Bear in mind, nothing conclusive here, but it's interesting to see. I hope you enjoy it.
I'm going to start out with just a little bit of background first. I was on this board in the early 90s and chaired this board for a few years in the early 90s. So I'm fairly familiar and started representing this board shortly after I left it. So I'm really familiar with your procedures and your history. There is nothing in your procedures. What we're asking you to do today is look at the ex officio members. There is nothing at law that requires the city to appoint ex officio members. And there's nothing at law that requires you to accept ex officio members. They serve an important purpose, providing communication between you, the CRA, and the DDB. How did we get ex officio members? Well, it actually started 3 years before I got involved, so I can only tell you through the paperwork. According to the minutes of the August 8th, 1987 council meeting, and I'm going to periodically say commissioners because that's what they were called back then, so I know it's been changed, but according to the minutes of the August 8th, 1987 council meeting, there was a prior joint meeting of the council and the DDB. And recognizing that our goals are very similar to their goals as far as downtown is concerned. The DDB requested that there be non-voting representation from the city commission on the DDB board and non-voting representation from the DDB on the CRA. Okay? The minutes of the 87 meeting of the council says that it was agreed that 2 members of the DDB would be appointed as non-voting members of the CRA, and at least 1 commissioner would be appointed as non-voting member of the DDB. At that meeting, 2 DDB members designated by the DDB were approved by the commission to sit as non-voting members on the CRA, and the commission then appointed 2 members of the commission to sit on the DDB board as non-voting members. We don't know why they picked 2 instead of 1. There's nothing in there that indicates why. No reason why they should, but they did pick 2. I don't know when the practice of having 2 members of the DDB on the CRA as non-voting members on the CRA stopped. I don't know who requested that it stop. I don't have those records, and it didn't seem like something you all would want to pay me to research because it's not particularly relevant here. I can only assume, as a practical matter, that they decided, since the commission also sits as the CRA, having a commission appointee here who is also on both other boards, you've got your communication. Because one would assume that, unlike at my age, he doesn't walk through a door and forget everything, or he takes notes. But it's one would assume that that communication could be handled by the person who attends all 3 meetings. During my term on the board, and I think pretty consistently thereafter, there have been 2 appointed. The purpose of the ex officio members, and that's pretty clear in the minutes from the 87 meeting, is, it was recognized that revitalization of downtown is important to all 3 boards. Okay? They share a common purpose. They do not share. They do not have equal powers, and they do not have equal responsibilities. But there's overlap. And if they're working at cross purposes, it's not going to be good for downtown. So communication was key in order to make sure that the boards are working together, to make sure that they're not undoing what the other did or duplicating efforts. So it is clear in the minutes that the purpose of these cross members was communication, improving communication. The appointees are not there as individuals. The appointees are there as representatives. They are not, there was nothing in there that said, you need other people there to help you make decisions on either side. In fact, I think at that time the commission would have blown a gasket if we had told them they needed our help on the CRA, and I'm fairly sure we would have blown a gasket for the same reason. These members are there to participate in their representative capacity. The problem, and it has been true since I was on the board, is that if you have two appointees, one of them doesn't have much to do. Because, quite frankly, after the mayor makes his report about what the CRA and the city is doing, there's not much left in a representative capacity for Mr. Bunker to say. So, and this has been a problem since day one. And like I said, I've searched to find out a rationale for the two, and I couldn't find it. I've talked to people who were around back then. There aren't many of us. They don't know where it was. So when I was on the board, I always felt like we were wasting one commissioner's time because the other one could have handled it. One of the arguments I've heard is, well, what if that commissioner can't show up? We don't have the communication problems that we used to have. We're staffed by the CRA's staff. Communication flows quite easily between the two groups. Amanda doesn't take off her DDB hat and say, I'm not going to talk about any of that when she's talking to the CRA people. You know, we have the same staff, so the communication is there regardless. So if a meeting has to be missed or a designated member can't attend, either a substitute or rely on staff. It's not an issue. To make sure that I was being fair and not making, not just playing personalities here, I went back through the minute. I had Sandy go back through the minutes and do a summary for me. And through no fault of his own, Mr. Bunker has made a maximum of 2 comments in his representative capacity. Not because he's being lax, but because it's already been said. So there really is, and so most of the comments have been in a personal capacity, which is not what this position is for. And having 2 members, no matter who they are, puts the second member in that position. And that's why we've requested that this resolution be entered. And did you want me to read it, or is there a copy that's available to the public?
I believe if we just read out the title, like the heading.
Pardon?
If we just read out the first paragraph.
Okay. Resolution of the Clearwater Downtown Development Board of the City of Clearwater, Florida, requesting that the Clearwater City Council appoint 1 council member to serve as a non-voting member of the Clearwater Downtown Development Board, providing an effective date of this resolution.
Very good. Now, are there any questions from the board?
I have some questions. You said you went back to 12 months since Mr. Bunker was on the DDB board here. Going back 3-4 years, have we had more comments from other ex-official members? Have they ever expressed a situation where they felt they had nothing to say and their time's been wasted? Because I feel if they volunteered their time to be here, we shouldn't take it lightly, So have you ever had any situations where they go, oh, I don't want to be here because I don't have anything to say?
We have actually, back when I was on the board, there was some discussion as to whether we really needed to, but it didn't come to a head. I can't tell you whether I don't believe you all have discussed it, but if you look back at your minutes, I suspect you're going to find the same thing is true, that one person can handle it. So I don't know why we have to.
Yes, maybe Mr. Bunker might not say certain things might not say much, but the next person who fills his seat might say more. So I don't think, based on you feel on one person's performance, should we feel we have to get rid of the second position? Because I don't see why we have to do that. It does no harm. It does for him to be here, or for have two ex officio members. They're not being paid to be here, particularly. So why do we get rid of it? I mean, if they haven't complained about being here, so that's what I don't understand. So.
I will have a question.
Kayla?
I don't know if you have an answer or you're responding to that, so I didn't want to be rude.
Truly, it is a matter of why are we asking the commission to appoint two members?
2 points of view.
They have a few other things they can be doing. And why are we creating a situation where we have a mute member or a member who feels it's necessary to just bring in personal opinion, which is what has happened here, or personal comments rather than representative comments?
Yeah, maybe personal, but the next person that fills the shoes there might not do that. So we shouldn't just make a decision on that. And
What
that's
do you see as the advantage of having two members?
What's the disadvantage?
Pardon?
What's your disadvantage?
I'm asking, what is the advantage of having two
I'm
members?
asking what your disadvantage is.
The disadvantage, you have one person who has no real purpose.
And I'm asking, going back 2-3 years, has that been the case?
Yeah, I believe that has been the case, that having two members serves no real purpose.
And have they expressed that same idea that they don't want to be here because they have nothing to say? I mean,
I haven't asked.
okay, maybe we should.
Okay.
I had one or two questions, but after hearing this, I have many more. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So the one question I had is, theoretically what would happen is, if this were to be approved, it would go to city council and then they would just pick who, because we keep referring to like Mr. Bunker's spot.
I'm sorry,
Sure, we keep referring to Mr. Bunker's spot, but the process would be, it would go back to city council would decide who to appoint in that position. So we don't know who would serve in the sole position.
that is correct. The council has, if we ask them to appoint one and they agree to appoint one, that is their choice. They're not required to appoint one, they're not required to appoint two. But if they agree to appoint one, it is their choice who they pick.
Just want to make sure.
We make all of our choices in April for all of the boards that all the council members serve on. Countywide, the DDB, all of those are done in our April meeting, normally after an election. But it's every year annually. Many times people are renewed, just so you know what the process is and when.
And that affected the timing of this motion, because we knew the process was beginning.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, first I was surprised that you mentioned, because I thought you were going to offer me to be the sole person as an ex officio.
It's not our
member.
choice.
Not your choice, right. But you assumed that the mayor would stay on and Mr. Bunker would be booted off.
No,
So I'm wondering
I
if this
saying-
was-
That is not what I was saying. What I was saying, as it currently stands, the mayor makes his report because he is the senior member, and then you are left with nothing to say. But I was making no assumption as to who the city would appoint.
So if the city council decided, yes, we want Mr. Bunker to be the sole ex officio member and not the mayor, you would be happy with that?
It is not my decision.
Well, whose idea was this? Was this your idea to suddenly drop down to one, or was it the board's idea? Did they come to you, or did you suggest it to them?
Actually, it was a discussion between staff and me.
Staff and you?
Yes.
No members of the board?
And I discussed it with the chair because the chair has to put it on the agenda.
Okay. But, just for sunshine laws, there was no
No, there was no
input.
discussion with any, well, actually, I'm allowed to discuss it with every single person on the board.
Sure.
As long as I don't tell them who else I've discussed it with.
Did you, or did you
No,
just?
I did not.
Okay. So did Paris bring it to you, or did you bring it to Paris?
I brought it to him.
Okay. Did Paris suggest that you search ways to get rid of Mr. Bunker?
No, because quite frankly, if that were the sole goal, we could just not accept ex officio members.
But I find it curious that since 1987, and through all the years that you served on the board, until now, you never had a problem with 2 ex officio members, but now you do. And Mr. Bunker, we're wasting his time. Let him go. You say I made only 2 comments. Well, I don't think that's exactly true.
2
But
representative comments.
one thing I did do is very strongly support the Downtown Clearwater Merchants Association when they came to ask for their big ask. And the point I made when I supported them, which you were against, was that since 1987, through all the years you were on the board and all the years after, downtown was dead. The district came along from the CMA, and they brought life to downtown. And I said they deserve the money because they're doing the work. They're getting results. And I backed them, and they called me their champion when I saw them outside.
Mr. Bunker, you just proved my point. You are not talking as a representative of the city you are talking about you. You are talking about your opinion. You didn't say the commission believes, and you didn't say that the CRA believes. That was you, and that is not what this petition entails. That would be more appropriate on citizens' comments. It is not a representative comment.
But you have to admit, it was a comment that had some weight to it, that actually got the rest of the board to say, all right, let's do that. And that has been a success.
I admit no such thing. I believe the board was going to prove it regardless.
All right. Well, it's not an insubstantial thing that I contributed on that day.
I never said insubstantial. I said personal rather than representative.
All right. So why are there any ex officio members? Why do we need any?
I don't believe at this point that we do when we're sharing staff, but I do believe that in the event that we stop sharing staff, it's good to have the system in place. But that's my personal opinion, not the board's opinion.
All right. Early on, when Mayor Hibbard got reelected and I joined the city council, Mayor Hibbard made a point at one of the city council meetings that he didn't know if there was a reason for this board to exist at all, because it was duplicative and there could be a better way to handle this. So if during the discussion that we have during the city council meeting, if that's brought up as an option, well, let's just disband the Downtown Development Board. Is that an acceptable solution?
It's easier said than done. We're an independent taxing district.
Just checking.
Just checking. Okay.
Okay, let's keep to the resolution that we're discussing and not other matters. Okay.
Okay.
So any other board members have any input on this? Okay.
Citizen comments.
Are there any citizen comments on this question? All right, so we have a resolution that's been read out. I'd like to request a motion to adopt this resolution number 2102.
Yeah, I move the DDB requests that the City of Clearwater City Council appoint 1 council member to serve as ex officio non-voting member of the DDB at the next available meeting.
Very good. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Keenan seconds. Okay, is there any discussion? Anyone want to say anything? Okay. Yes, you may say something.
Sure. I have been prevented from saying the word Scientology since you last passed one of these resolutions. But I think it's
Mr. Bunker,
important
Mr.
to have it on the
Bunker,
record that really
stop
this is
you right
about
there.
Scientology.
Mr. Bunker, you're out of order. We're talking about the resolution before us. We're not talking about Scientology. Restrict your comments to the issue we're discussing.
That's the subtext.
Okay. Okay, so, okay,
It's
so
a
that's,
subterfuge.
there's a resolution before us. You can either keep your comments to it or don't make any. Okay, so,
I'd like to just make,
Caitlin?
it's more of an inquiry, but one thing that I know we've always kind of wanted to maintain, certainly more recently since I've been involved as well, is a good working relationship with city council. And I'd be curious if there would be any appearance going from 2 to 1. Is that creating an issue in terms of the relationship between DDB and city council? And I'd be interested if the mayor, if you have any kind of optic issues with that, or no, the answer would be no.
Well, I think there's going to obviously be optics now, because there's going to be questions about motivation. But it will be a discussion that we'll have amongst ourselves and make a determination as to what we think is best for both the city and the DDB. And we'll either accept your resolution or we won't. So,
That's all we can ask.
yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call it for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 1.
I'm deeply touched by Elisa's concern about wasting my time. And there's as much sincerity in that comment as I believe there is in your excuse for creating this.